Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this regularly scheduled council meeting to order for Monday, January 22nd, the year 2018. Let us all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Santos, roll call.
Maldonado. Maldonado.
Present.
Franciski.
Present.
Walker.
Present.
Vasquez.
Present.
Garcia.
Present.
Orange.
Present.
Perez.
Present.
Monroe.
Present.
Medina.
Present. The chair will now accept the motion for the minutes, Monday, January 8th, 2018.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second. Motion made by Councilman Garcia, properly second by Councilman Monroe. Questions on that motion? Clerk Santos, roll call.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Orange.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes, that motion carries. Clerk Santos, communications from the mayor's office.
No, Mr. President. Yes.
Communications from department heads.
Yes. Sandra Favela.
Good evening. Sandra Favela, Chief of Staff. I have provided to the city clerk the letters that we sent out to all city employees. I'll give her some time to pass those out. The mayor passed out a letter to all city employees January 19, 2018. I'll go ahead and read the letter. On Wednesday, January 17, 2018, the East Chicago 2018 city budget of $31.7 million was reverted back to the 2017 budget of $27.3 million. As a result of the city's original proposed budget for 2018 is now roughly reduced by $4 million. Because of this action, the city will have to take more cautionary steps. The city will stay true to the tried and true methods of budget stabilizations. These methods will include the freezing of overtime, restrictions to travel and training, the pausing of the new hires, and the consideration of layoffs. I pray that our past frugal practices, which have allowed us to have a surplus, will help ease some of these burdens. This new news comes on the heels of the good news that because of past austerity practices, crime has gone down 6 years in a row. The quality of life investments have increased threefold, and our city is cleaner and brighter than it has been in decades. East Chicago, now is the time that I'm in need of your concerns and your prayers. Sincerely, Anthony Copeland, Mayor. The Mayor also wants to thank all the council members for coming to the meeting the past couple of weeks. He also looks forward to hearing from the council as a result of those meetings. So hopefully we'll hear from many of the council members soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Clerk Santos.
Accounts payable warrant 123-117CC.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman Orange, properly second by Councilman Perez. To hear accounts payable warrant 123-117CC. Any questions on that motion? Clerk Santos, roll call.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Garcia.
Nope.
Orange.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Accounts payable warrant 010418CC.
So moved, Mr. President. Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman Vasquez, properly second by Councilwoman Walker. To hear accounts payable warrant 010418CC. Questions on that motion? Clerk Santos, roll call.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Franceschi,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Garcia.
No.
Orange,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Medina.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Accounts payable warrant 010918CC.
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Franceschi, properly second by Councilwoman Vasquez to hear accounts payable warrant 010918CC. Questions on that motion? Clerk Santos, roll call.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Franceschi,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Garcia.
No.
Orange,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Medina.
Yes, that motion carries. Next item.
Accounts payable warrant 011018CC.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second. Motion made by Councilwoman Walker, properly second by Councilman Franceschi to hear accounts payable warrant 011018CC. Questions on the motion? Clerk Santos, roll call.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Franceschi,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Garcia.
No.
Orange,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Medina.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Accounts payable warrant 011218CC.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second. Motion made by Councilman Vasquez, properly second by Councilman Franceschi to hear accounts payable warrant 011218CC. Questions on the motion? Clerk Santos, roll call.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Franceschi,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Garcia.
No.
Orange,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Medina.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Accounts payable warrant 012218CC.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman Orange, properly second by Councilwoman Walker to hear accounts payable warrant 012218CC. Questions on that motion? Clerk Santos, roll call.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Franceschi,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Garcia.
No.
Orange,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Medina.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Accounts payable warrant 012218LA.
So move. Second. Motion made by Councilman Francisco, properly second by Councilman Monroe to hear accounts payable warrant 012218LA. Any questions on that motion? Clerk Santos, roll call.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Franceschi,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Garcia.
No.
Orange,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Medina.
Yes, the motion carries. Next item.
Accounts payable warrant 012218CB.
So move.
Second.
Motion on the floor made by Councilman Monroe, properly second by Councilwoman Vasquez to hear accounts payable warrant 012218CB. Questions on the motion? Councilman Garcia.
Yeah, Mr. President, I seen this word and I seen this, the amount, which is $1,237,475. That probably, go to the controller's office to find out what this item is, and this is to build the community centers. This started in 2015, and here, 3 years later, that's when we're building these centers. I think it's just to build them 3 years later when they borrowed that money in 2015 to get them done. We should have got them done then. I'm glad we're still getting them done now, but why start a project 3 years later? Thank you.
Any further questions on that motion? Clerk Santos, roll call to accept.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Franciski,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Orange,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Medina.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Payroll warrant biweekly, 011218.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second. Motion made by Councilman Garcia, properly second by Councilman Monroe to hear payroll biweekly 011218. Questions on the motion? Clerk Santos, roll call to accept.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Franciski,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Orange,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Medina.
Yes. Motion carries. Clerk Santos, next item.
Employee contract, council attorney.
Mr. President.
Councilman Garcia.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we hire Attorney Buscemi.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Councilman Garcia, probably second by Councilman Perez, to hire Attorney Buscemi. Questions on that motion? Councilwoman Vasquez.
If it's appropriate at this time, I'd like to make a motion to consider Attorney Bauer for employment as City Council Attorney.
Second.
Secondary motion? Or are we going to open this up to nominations? 'Cause we do have a motion on the floor at this point in time. So the secondary motion will be to hire Attorney Bauer by Councilwoman Vasquez, properly second by Councilwoman Orange. Questions on that motion? Councilwoman Orange. Well, following Robert's rules, we did have a motion on the floor for Attorney Buscemi. We had properly second. Now we're making a secondary motion for a separate attorney. The motion wasn't to take nominations, so we will hear the secondary motion first, and then revert back to the primary motion. Any further questions on the secondary motion? Councilman Franciski?
Is it possible that my two colleagues can just abstain and we can just have a roll call? To revert the motions,
Send the motion.
rescind the motions?
That's up to whoever made the motions, if they want to.
That would probably, but
Councilman Garcia.
Who made the motion? You did?
He's talking about the secondary motion, correct?
You have a primary motion, and you have a secondary motion.
Mr. President, are we asking that both motions, if we would consider rescinding them? Is that what you're asking? or just a second?
That's what was suggested by
Okay.
Councilman Franciski.
Yes.
But following Robert's Rules of Order, we have to entertain the secondary motion first, which would be to retain Attorney Bauer. Councilman Santos, roll call to retain the secondary motion, Attorney Bauer.
Maldonado,
No.
Franciski,
No.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Garcia,
No.
Orange,
Yes.
Perez,
No.
Monroe,
No.
Medina.
No. Secondary motion fails. Revert back to its original motion. Any questions on that motion? Councilwoman Vasquez.
Just a comment. As we discussed earlier, I'm sure Mr. Attorney Buscemi is qualified also to be considered for this position, but like I explained to the council, I just wish I would have had the opportunity to have met him. I met him for the first time tonight, so I didn't have an opportunity to discuss anything with him, nor have I had an opportunity to review his employment contracts. So I'm not saying that I wouldn't look forward to him or don't feel that he's qualified. It's just, I just didn't have any time or wasn't given the consideration to be able to meet with you ahead of time like some of my colleagues.
Councilwoman Walker.
And I would like to know, could I speak directly to him?
Sure.
Since you are employed by the Sheriff's Department, and Emilio works for the Sheriff's Department.
Excuse me, you want to speak to Mr. Buscemi? Could you approach the podium, sir, and identify yourself?
Mr. President and members of the council, Attorney John Buscemi.
Since you work for the Sheriff's Department, and Emilio works for the Sheriff's Department, would there be a conflict of interest?
In my opinion, there wouldn't. The duties for the Sheriff's Department are to defend lawsuits. They're litigation-related. The duties here for the City Council would be to provide advice to you as the legislative and fiscal body of the city. I don't see any conflict of interest, Councilman.
There was no top to that.
Any further questions? Thank you, sir. You may be seated. Councilwoman Orange.
Well, it's a sad day for me to see my colleagues. When we did this some years ago and needed an attorney, Mr. Bauer, we did interview 3 different attorneys in different areas, and it has nothing to do with Mr. Buscemi. As he reminded me, we worked on a campaign together. And I hate that this is done this way, where you have, because when we did this before, we did give the courtesy of letting the other attorney know that they may not be coming back, so that it wouldn't be an embarrassing moment. But Mr. Bauer has served us well. We've had the Attorney General come to the floor, and he has given us advice. None of us has gone to jail. He made sure that every end of the year that we had the things that we're supposed to send to the county, to send to the mayor's office, so that we didn't get in trouble. He's been good to this council. I will be sad to see him leaving. He probably will be happy because of the fact of some of the things that have happened on this council. But Mr. Bauer, I think you've done a great job, and I will be sorry to see you go, and they may be sorry to see you go.
Councilman Garcia.
Yes, Mr. President. I want to thank him. You've been a very good attorney, but I think it's time to move on. But thank you for your service. Gilda, you say they interviewed 3 attorneys last time. This whole council was not included at that time, so it was just a privy few that seen those 3 attorneys. But I think we're going down the right road.
Any further questions?
Oh, just a final comment.
Councilwoman Vasquez.
I also would like to thank Attorney Bauer for your great service, for keeping us on our toes. Attorney Bauer, with educating us, providing the training we need, and keeping us up to date with everything that's been going on. Thank you so much.
Any further questions? For the record, I did have a conversation with Attorney Bauer a few days ago. I let him know what the results may or may not be. It wasn't for me to decide or to read the future. But I did give him a courtesy call. And with that, Clerk Santos, roll call to hire Attorney Buscemi.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes.
Walker.
No.
Vasquez.
Abstain.
Garcia.
Yes.
Orange.
No.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes, that motion carries. Next item, Clerk Santos.
Financial consultant service agreement.
Councilman Garcia.
So move on that contract for Sender.
Second.
Motion on the floor to retain Mr. Sender as our consultant, made by Councilman Garcia, probably second by Councilman Monroe. Questions on that motion? Clerk Santos, roll call to retain.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Orange.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes, motion carries. Clerk Santos, next item.
We have the Chief, Frank Smith. Fire Chief. And then the Police Chief.
Good evening, council members. Anthony Cerna, Fire Chief. I asked to speak during public expression. Council President advised to speak earlier during communications from department heads. I don't have a communication per se to express to you. I would like to say, although I'm not allowed at this time to speak at public expression as a resident, you know that I do reside here. You know that I've lived here all my life. You know that I've got 22 and a half years on this fire department. And with that being said, I just wanted to take the time to come here. I'm glad to see all of my firefighters that are here in support with their support public safety t-shirts, because nobody supports public safety more than I do as the fire chief. And if I had to make a communication to you, which I did not have, but what I do want to say to make sure that you all understand, and for the record, for those that may be watching, is that right now these are tough times with what's happening with what's going on with the council and the mayor as far as the budget reverting back to 2017 and the public safety, police, and fire salary ordinance. There's talk of as the letter was read by Sandra Favela, of options being on the table to help get us through what hopefully isn't a long ride, a long bumpy ride. But I want to let you know that the service and the job that we do is never going to be compromised by a number, by tumultuous times, as long as I'm in charge. As long as I'm in charge, I'm going to make sure that we all, from the top down, do the best job that we can do. Regardless of standards that you may hear about and different numbers that you hear about, every day that I come to work, I make sure that our department is ready to serve, that our department can do the best that they can each and every day. I want more firefighters at work every day, that's for sure. Not only for the citizens that we serve and for their safety so they get home every morning. I want them to go home in the same or better condition than what they arrive, physically and mentally, every day. I pray, I thank God for that every day. But I just wanted to communicate to you, since this is a time that you wanted me to speak instead of at public expression, that public safety, as far as the fire department goes, as the letter was read from Sandra Favela about certain options that may be on the table, is never going to be compromised as long as I'm chief. Thank you.
All respect, Chief of Police.
Chief of Police, Scott Smith. I just want to kind of reiterate what's going on in reference to public safety. We're here basically to address that there's no way that we're going to try to compromise the streets or have less officers on the streets whatsoever. We are concerned about additional days because we know it's going to cut into overtime and it will hurt us somewhere down the line during these difficult times. But more importantly, I wanted to address that, for the 6th consecutive year, crime is down once again, and we contribute that to the additional officers on the streets. So I'm just hoping that's something that they consider, something that you guys can work through, hopefully, with the mayor in the future here. We don't want to go back to past practices if we don't have to, but this is where we are right now. So with that said, my expression, how I feel. I want to keep the officers safe. It's more important than them going home than anything in the world to me, and that's number one. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Clerk Santos, next item.
There is no more communications from the department heads, Mr. President. Committee reports?
Each of the colleagues have received the new list of committee reports for 2018. I don't believe we'll have any for today. Next item.
Board reports?
Board reports. Do you have a report? Approach the podium, please.
Henry Rodriguez, council appointee to the Chicago Waterway Management District. You probably know that the dredging for this year, last year is complete, and they dredged approximately 94,000 cubic yards of sediment went into the CDF. Since 2012, when the dredging started, they've dredged approximately 1,250,000 cubic yards of sediment. Of course, the dredging will continue spring of this year. We're not sure, just like we usually are. Also, as far as the TASCA, the PCBs, and the canals, as EPA and IDEM are still screening alternative spots for the dredging and disposal of the TASCA settlements. It's anticipated that we'll have a recommendation sometime this year. That's all I got.
Thank you. Next item, Clerk Santos.
You have board appointments?
Councilman Garcia.
Make a motion that we deal with at our next meeting.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Councilman Garcia to move board appointments over to our next scheduled meeting, properly second by Councilman Monroe. Any questions on that motion? Clerk Santos, roll call.
Maldonado?
Yes.
Francisci?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Vasquez?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Orange?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes.
Medina?
Yes. Clerk Santos, ordinances on first reading.
Ordinance 18-001, sponsor Mayor Anthony Copeland. Appropriation ordinance appropriating grant proceeds for the Indiana Housing and Community Development Blight Elimination Program.
We'll move on first reading, Mr. President.
Motion on the floor by Councilman Garcia to hear ordinance 18-0001. Is there a second?
Second.
Properly second by Councilwoman Maldonado. Any questions? Councilwoman Orange.
James?
Good evening, Mr. President, council members. James Portalatin, Chicago Building Commissioner.
This is to take care of some of the buildings that you guys plan on tearing down, because there's a couple of buildings that the roofs are caving in. Will this take care of some of this situation?
Yes, I believe you're speaking like 3909 Fern and so forth. Yes, that is on the second phase. If you may recall, IHCDA awarded on our second round, they awarded the city of East Chicago $914,000. And so we're requesting the appropriation of funds into the building department demolition fund to be able to proceed with these demolitions of these properties that were submitted to hardest hit.
Councilman Garcia.
And this is probably a question for Steve Dalton. I just want to know, why is it listed under other services and charges?
Steve Dalton, financial advisor. Other services and charges would be the appropriate place to list items that are going to be paid that are going to end up being contracts for professional services. You're not buying a road, so it's not a capital improvement. You're tearing down buildings, and those buildings, I presume, will be torn down by contractors. So those are going to come in as professional service invoices, which need to be paid out of your 300 series.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Maldonado.
Do you have a list of the properties that are going to be demolished?
Yes, I actually do. The properties that we were awarded, and I have a...
Give it to the... It's for Thank you.
Councilwoman Vasquez.
Yes, can you tell me if this ordinance is time sensitive?
Yes, it is.
It is? Can you explain?
Because I had thought that these funds were appropriated before, but evidently they haven't been, and we have a time deadline of the end of this year to be able to demolish all these properties. So if possible, if this can be approved to the suspension, pending a rules, I would really appreciate that on our end.
And if that didn't happen, I mean, what are the, what's the repercussion if we don't meet that deadline?
We'll still meet the deadline. But it just gives us a little bit quicker where we could start the process to get these awarded and bid it out and get this demolition started.
Councilman Garcia.
Mr. President, you said to the end of the year right now. Is it the end of the year, 2018?
Yes,
Okay.
December.
So it's not time sensitive. We could just pass it during normal business.
What's the reason? Sorry, I'm going to introduce myself. Maria Solorio, Planning and Economic Development Director. The reason why it's time sensitive is that to get POs and things like that, to get the work done, actually done, takes process. So the sooner we can get the money, the quicker we can get the POs and get the actual projects demolished. Because even after demolition, we still have to seek reimbursement. We still have to close out. And so all of that has to all be done by December 2018. So it's not like the building needs to be done in 2018. It's everything in that grant needs to be closed out. And so I do ask that we take as much time as we can, and it would alleviate if we can get the PO portion of it done as soon as possible.
Mr. President.
Continue, Councilman Garcia.
This passed within the next couple meetings, and to me, it's not time sensitive. That all that work can still be done with no problem. You got to the end of the year, we're going to pass this within the next couple meetings. But I think we're having too many things come to us and say it's time sensitive. You got to pass it. You know what? I don't know whose responsibility it was. It should have brought to us sooner. If it's time sensitive, bring it to us sooner. And I think it cuts out the confusion. James, can you explain, because you said you had a list, can you explain to the council how you submit that and then how you get the money? So we all can understand?
Sure. All of these properties have to be 4 units or less, and they obviously have to qualify as properties that are worthy of demolition. So there's a site evaluation matrix fill out, and it has a point system. We need to compile photos, get reports from police, from fire. It's a lot of work to even submit it to IHCDA. Our program partner is the Department of Redevelopment. So these properties are owned by the Department of Redevelopment, or are in the process of being transferred to the Department of Redevelopment. Once all the properties that you have listed there have been approved, with the exception of the properties in Marktown, because of they are in a historic district. So those properties, even though we have the funding made available, those properties are not going to be demolished that are in that list. We since have submitted some additional properties to IHCDA to be able to replace the properties that are not being that weren't approved in the Marktown area, and we will continue to do so throughout this year. We have been informed that also throughout the Board of Safety, owners can become program partners with us as well, so that we could demolish these properties that they probably cannot, don't have a handle on, they can't fix it, they don't have the funds. We're able to use these funds to be able to eliminate those properties. So it's surely is a blessing for the city to be able to get these properties that are vacant, that can cost, people can go in. There's just a lot of bad things that can happen with these properties that continue to be vacant in each of your districts.
Councilman Perez.
These been approved already by the Blight Elimination Program at the state?
Yes.
And just for the record, there's no matching funds from the city on the Blight Elimination Program, right? It's all state grant.
Yes.
My colleagues, I'm very familiar with this process, and it is a very complex and long process. If there was ever a time when they would ask us to consider suspending the rules, I would say this would be it. This is state money that is totally free, no East Chicago tax money involved at all. And they're giving that money to tear down blighted properties. And the process, like James, they can't even close one out until they get the grass back, and they got to come back and certify the grass came back. And it is an exhaustive process. We've had 3 different people head that program already, because it is so complicated and so hands-on. It really is. It's very easy to drop something when you're walking this through its process. So I would recommend to my colleagues seriously consider suspending the rules and allowing this program to pass on all 3 readings tonight.
Any further questions? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Clerk Santos, roll call.
Maldonado?
Yes.
Franciski?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Vasquez?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Orange?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes.
Medina?
Yes, that motion carries.
President, motion to suspend the rules and hear on the second and third reading.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Councilwoman Orange to suspend the rules on ordinance 18-0001. Second by
Second.
Councilman Franciski. Questions to suspend the rules? Clerk Santos, roll call to suspend the rules.
Maldonado?
Yes.
Franciski?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Vasquez?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Orange?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes.
Medina?
Yes. Councilwoman Orange.
Mr. President, motion to hear it on second and third reading.
Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman Orange, probably second by Councilwoman Vasquez, to hear on second and final reading ordinance 18-0001. Questions on that motion? Clerk Santos, roll call to adopt.
Maldonado?
Yes.
Franciski?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Vasquez?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Orange?
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Medina.
Yes, that motion carries. Clerk Satos, ordinance on second reading,
No, Mr. President.
ordinance on third.
Yes, ordinance 17-0035, sponsor Councilman Robert Garcia. An ordinance amending ordinance 15-0029, clarifying and fixing the number of sick days for city employees for the year 2018.
Mr. President,
Councilman Garcia.
I want to make a motion table.
Second.
Motion on the floor to table. Ordinance on third reading, 17-0035. Clerk Santos?
Maldonado,
Yes.
Franciski,
Yes.
Walker. Vasquez,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Orange,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Medina.
Yes. Councilman Garcia, under Robert's rules, to table, there's no discussion. However, you can make comment on the old business.
Yes, sir.
Mr. President.
Clerk Santos, any resolutions?
No, Mr. President.
We'll now move into old business.
Mr. President.
The floor is open to old business. Councilman Garcia.
Yes, just want to know, give the reason why we table this. The Finance Committee's going to go back and trying to hammer out an agreement with the mayor. We all talked on the council in the executive session. And this is just deals with city employees. This ain't got nothing to do with fire and police. Want to get everybody straight. You know, this ordinance ain't got nothing to do with fire and police. We passed that ordinance for fire and police. We overrode that veto. The state said it was valid, so what we dealing with this ordinance here was the city employees. But we're going to go in and have a meeting with the mayor and see what transpires.
Any further old business? Floor is now open to new business.
Mr. President?
Councilman Garcia.
Yeah, Mr. President, could I ask for a public safety meeting? I know there's a lot of people that's concerned. You had both chiefs that got up here and talked about public safety and overtime and everything else like that. But I think we need to be clear and concise with this information. And if you could have a public safety meeting so this council knows what's going on, I think it'd be better for all of us. Just to say also, we're not going through tough, difficult times. This money, the city has $10 million in surplus. This mayor, he put that letter that we're going to be short $4 million. I'm going to cut overtime, but he's willing to give a raise, a 3% raise and the bonus. That's confusing. You know, the money's there. $10 million bonus. I mean, $10 million in surplus, and the money's there to get this done, Mr. President. Crime rate, keeps on saying crime rate is down for the last 6 years, and some of those years I know the violent crime was up. So, you know, you just can't say crime is low for the last 6 years and violent crime is up for a couple of those years. That don't make sense to me, because what I care about, and I know what my neighbors care about, is violent crime, you know? And I think when people say that, I think they may speak, and, you know, it's wrong to say that. And I know those quite a few years, in those 6 years, violent crime was up.
Councilman Perez, you are chair.
Yes, Mr. President.
Year 2018, can you go ahead and schedule one with your colleagues? Any further new business? Councilwoman Orange?
Alita, if you could send a letter to the school superintendent and also the school board, asking them the reason why they are moving the bus depot and also the administration building to Cary. Gosh, I don't think the people in that area know that this is happening. I happened to be at a school board when it was school board meeting that was brought up. And we go right back to safety. I listen to some of my colleagues talk about safety all the time, and to me, that's a safety issue. And I would like to see what their intentions is. If that's not their intentions, I think they should let the public know. But if it is their intention, what they are planning on doing to make sure that area is safe for people to come in and out. I know they have meetings now, but it's not where they're housing people 5 days a week, or where kids are coming through. And if they have to dig into that ground to put gas tanks or anything. So the concerns, and people have talked about that, is the concerns of them putting that there.
Councilman Monroe.
Councilwoman, don't mind, I'll put my name on that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilman Garcia.
Mine also, please.
Mr. President, yeah,
Councilman Garcia.
yes. I'm glad the chief is here because I got some public requested information from you. I've been in discussions with the International Association of Firefighter, and if you don't mind, can I read this first paragraph in this letter? I'm trying to get some information from the GIS, but this first paragraph says the Geographic Information System is a tool that allows users to visualize and analyze and interpret data to drive decisions. This is especially important in today's fire services as there is a need to appropriately match resources to risks. Using a GIS analysis, a fire department can locate fire stations, apparatus, and staff, as well as hazards and areas of risk within the community. Using tools and processes within the GIS software, a user can calculate how far resources can travel within specific timeframes, as well as where multiple resources traveling from different locations can assemble together, again, within specific timeframes. Additionally, historical data such as incidents, locations, and population statistics can be used in the GIS analysis to identify areas of concentration, predict future demand, and offer recommendations as to where and how many resources may be needed in the future. More and more fire departments are relying on actual data to drive decisions regarding stations, location, apparatus deployment, and staffing. In addition, institutions such as the Commission on Fire Accreditation International requires the department to include GIS analysis and maps in self-assessments. And what I'm asking for is, in order there is this report to be provided in Excel or CSV format. Needed fields include incident number, date of incident, call type / code, address of incident, including zip code, units assigned, the time units were assigned, the time units arrived, and the time units became available for other responses. Location data can also be provided in the longitude and latitude coordinations for EMS calls. Additional information such as time en route to hospital and hospital arrival times is also helpful. If you could provide that in a thumb drive to me, I'd really appreciate it.
Mr. President?
Chief?
If that's how Freedom of Information Acts are requested here, that's my first time hearing of a FOIA request right here. We will work to get that for you.
Thank you, Chief. Any further new business? We'll now move into public expression. Remind those speaking before us today, please keep your comments to 3 minutes. And we will start with Lori Coca.
Thank you. I'm here on behalf of my husband. He's working 3 to 11 shift this afternoon, so he is unable to be here. I am just simply reading a letter that he has penned to the council. President Medina, on behalf of myself and my family, I would like to thank the Common Council members that presented and passed a 2018 salary ordinance increasing the appropriations and additional sick days for police department personnel including the department's administration, upon amendment to the original ordinance, against Mayor Anthony Copeland's desire. Your decision to stand strong has made a positive difference in my family, and we are grateful for your support. Please understand that my family and I are immensely thankful for Mayor Copeland's budgetary stabilization for our city, which he touts at every opportunity, and has allowed for him to provide bonuses for all city employees. However, as a former member of our city's fire department, Mayor Copeland knows that bonuses do nothing to affect our pension rates, and bonuses are not guaranteed. Those members of the Common Council that voted in favor of supporting our department recognize the necessity in rewarding demanding work, commitment to the community, and retirement, which are all important aspects of being a public servant. My family and I would like to thank the Common Council members that leveraged the Indiana codes and case law that guide their decisions and are supported through legal legislation. Even those members of the Common Council that did not vote in our favor, please know that I, along with my colleagues, will still respond to any of your calls for assistance with the utmost speed and professionalism. I know that there are an overwhelming number of my professional colleagues that feel the same way. Please know that your actions in establishing a raise and increasing sick day allotments is a breath of fresh air in a department that festers from being extremely stale. Sincerely, Officer Nicholas Cocott, Patrol Division number 287. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Willie Hernandez.
Good evening, Mr. President, Council. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Willie Hernandez. I'm Vice President from East Chicago Firefighters Union, Local 365. You had the fire chief stand here and say you're going to hear standards, you're going to hear numbers, you're going to hear data. That's true, because we, the union, spoke with Chief Cerna 3 times this year. 4th time was to tell us there was no overtime. When we met with him, he brought up NFPA 1710, which is standards and recommendations for a fire. Please excuse my glasses. I had to use Sister Galarski's glasses. NFPA 1710 provides a minimum requirement relating to the organization and development of fire suppression operations. Single-family dwellings is, when I say the initial full alarm, that means when the tones go off, these are the amount of firefighters that should be responding to the call. When I say exposure, so you have a house here, your neighbor's house and neighbor's house, those are considered exposures. For a single-family dwelling, the initial full alarm assignment of a structure of a typical 2,000 square foot home, 2-story single-family dwelling without a basement and with no exposures, the minimum firefighters is 14. We have basements, we have exposures. A few days ago, we ran with 14 for the city of East Chicago. 14 firefighters we ran. 2 days ago, we ran with 15 firefighters. Now, that's a single family dwelling. When you have open strip malls, which we have a lot of storefronts, little mini malls, Strax, Country Mart, it's considered anything 1,300 square feet or 196,000 square feet. The initial full alarm for that, and also including family dwelling homes, is 27 members. When that alarm goes off, we were at 14. Garden-style apartments, we have those. The initial full alarm for an assignment for a structure of fire typical of 1,200 square feet apartments within a 3-story garden-style apartment. We have those. We just did a pre-plan today at 1301 Columbus Drive, 3 stories. How are we going to attack that with 14 members, 16 members? Because we had that also at 16. How are we going to fight this fire on a 3-story apartment with 16 guys? The minimum standard for this garden-style apartment and everything else that I mentioned is 27 members, minimum.
30 seconds.
High-rise. We have high-rises here, and the minimum is 42 members. We have Nicosia, Hunter Building, and Ameristar Casino. We have high-rises. Also, I have NFPA SOPs that we use. We use standard operating procedure. They're going to tell you those are those recommendations. We use them in our standard operating procedures. We use NFPA standards. Thank you.
Thank you. Angel Galarski.
Good evening. Angel Galarski, I'm the Secretary of Local 365. I too would like to talk about numbers and stats and some data points. I'll make it somewhat brief because I know that could kind of get a little tedious and boring. But just so that the council and the community is aware, before me, I have the 2016 annual fire department report. In 2016, the fire department ran 2,743 calls. The numbers for 2017, the report hasn't been generated yet, but those numbers are very similar. They're about 2,760-something calls. So, but we'll base our numbers off of 2016 numbers. 2,743 calls that the East Chicago Fire Department handled. Of those, we have the rescue provided 23% of the response calls. They ran a total of 1,292 calls. The other day, when the fire department went ahead and put the rescue out of service, that means that you had one company who is responsible for 23% of the call volumes in this city is out of service. Who fills in that gap? So when the fire chief came up here and said service will not be compromised, that's kind of wishful thinking. Let's go back and look at data points, get information like the GIST survey, and actually make decisions based on the deployment of the resources within the city on facts, not wishful thinking, not, well, I think that we're going to be okay. One of the statements that the chief made, that we're ready to serve and do the best we can, that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. We stand before here, and all the men and women behind me, we took an oath. I took an oath to serve this city and the community, and I take that very serious. And so does everybody else, but we want to go home. I don't want to come to work and already deal with, in a role where I have to make decisions that I'm under extreme pressure, and the decisions that I make can be life and death for somebody.
30 seconds.
And then here I am, I'm short-staffed. How do I run on a rig that has two firefighters on it? I know how to do my job with 4 firefighters on an engine. I know how to do my job well with 4 on an engine. I know how to do my job pretty good with 3. When you tell me and you put me on a fire truck with 2 people on it, and then you try to tell me how to do my job, I don't know. And the unfortunate part is, we're not even being given a directive by the fire chief on how to run safe and effectively with 2 people on a fire truck. And so now what they're doing is they're just putting rigs out of service. So we got the rescue out of service. Now you're running engines and truck companies in tandem. How is this supposed to work safely and effectively so that I could go home and the men and women behind me could go home every day, and we can safely and effectively rescue the community and the people that we swore an oath to serve? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Barrett Taylor.
Hello, my name's Barrett Taylor. I do not live in East Chicago. I don't work for East Chicago, but I do have an interest in East Chicago. Angel Galarski is my significant other, and that is our child back there that you see sitting around. And there's where my issue comes in. I heard Chief Cerna speak and say that nothing's going to change. I can't speak to the police department, but I hope they can do that. And I'd like to know how they plan to do that, since the man that put them in their positions is the one that's calling the shots to not pay for overtime. Now, the fire chief and the mayor, being an ex-firefighter, they know the implications of running so thin. And what ends up happening is it's going to be devastating. You're going to have a tragic incident, whether it be to citizens of the community, a firefighter or police officer, running that thin. My thing is to put the human element to it, to put a personal element, my touch to it. I want the police chief, or not necessarily the police chief, but I want the fire chief. I want him to sit there and think about it. I want the mayor to think about, what is the price of a loved one to you? A brother, a sister, a child, your mother, father, whoever's close to you. Now, is that price? I guarantee you that price is a lot more than what an overtime, couple overtimes, 3 or 4 people working overtime is going to be. And if and when that happens, God forbid that happens, I don't want anybody to come knocking on my door and tell me I'm sorry for your loss, because you're not. Not saying you, I'm saying the person that makes the decision to run a department that way, whether it be police, fire, you're not sorry. But what I want you to do, I want you to stand and I want you to kneel down in front of my daughter. Don't even speak to me. I would like that individual to kneel down in front of my daughter and look her in the eye with the same conviction, the same determination, and the same attitude you have as to why you want to run the department the way it needs to be, the way you feel it needs to be run.
30
For
seconds.
whatever reason. And I want you to look at my daughter and say, I made a decision to not give your parent, give your mother, give your father the help that they needed at work. I made a decision over a few dollars to not give them the help they needed. And for that reason, and that reason alone, they're not coming home ever again. Thank you.
Lupe Rodriguez.
Mr. President, members of the council, thank you for letting me speak. Lupe Rodriguez, 8821 Lee Street, Crown Point. I'm president of IF Local 365. And I wrote the mayor today. Didn't print out the way I wrote it, but I'm going to go ahead and hand this for them so you can have a copy, and I'm going to need these because the font is messed up. I'm going to go ahead and start here and see how much time we have left. So it's today, Mayor Copeland. It is with great disappointment and grave concern that I am writing you. Recently, you tasked us with working with Chief Cerna to find funding within our own budget to increase our minimum manning to 17 from our current 16, which requires staffing engine 2511 with only 2 line personnel. During our meeting, you seemed to express genuine concern as you agreed that it not only compromises public safety, but it also endangers the very firefighters who are already struggling to meet, and in most instances cannot meet, OSHA requirements regarding 2-in and 2-out procedures on the fire ground. Now, with your complete elimination of both police and fire overtime budgets, you've created a situation where no minimum manning exists. Fire department manning's already fallen as low as 14 and 15 men and women, forcing rigs out of service. This is unacceptable. Manning this low has a negative impact on the community. It also gravely jeopardizes the safety of the personnel responding, as well as limits them to the level of service provided. Public safety shouldn't be compromised, okay, especially as a result of ongoings between yourself and the city council, and yet I see it happening today. I find it rather unsettling that your top priority isn't sustaining public safety during this time, and I ask why that is. Instead of potential solutions, I see only blame, false narratives, and now threats to lay off an already depleted public safety sector. I hope and pray that you do the right thing for those you serve, and that includes, by the way, the public servants sworn to serve them with you during your tenure as mayor. I'm confident there's a solution. Our door will remain open during this trying time. That extends to you all as well. It's 2 paragraphs. It took me a long time to write this, believe it or not, because there are so many avenues that I wanted to attack with this. I could have had 4 or 5 pages. Hopefully not in this font. But what I found most troubling about this is that our mayor used to be a fireman. He dedicated a good portion of his career serving the public, to helping them in their worst times. And now he's turning their back on them. That's the way I see it. He doesn't want to pay the overtime because he wants to blame you. And I just think it's appalling. It's appalling. I think the citizens that live here deserve better. And I think the mayor needs to be held accountable. To be told the way it was disseminated, whoever shows up, that's what we have. That's not good enough.
30 seconds.
We need to do better than that. We can do better than that. And to the chief, who wouldn't give us an answer as to how to run with 16 men, we were running a 2-man engine crew, I ask, how do you propose we're going to run with 14 or 15? Safety. I don't see it getting done. Unless we pay overtime. Thank you for your time.
Henry Rodriguez.
Henry Rodriguez, 4933 Indianapolis Boulevard. Okay, I would like to make a correction on some of the numbers I gave last time I spoke here concerning the $3,000. Remember what that is, travel and education, raised that 6 members of this council voted to give them themselves. The other 3 members voted no on the increase for 2018. I compared that $3,000 increase to the 20% increase of Social Security benefits the senior citizens would be getting this year, 2018, which would have been $234 a year. I was wrong on the $324 a year. After Medicare raised their premiums, that 2% was reduced to 0.1%. That's what amounts to $24 a year, compared to the $3,000 6 members voted to give themselves for travel and education. Yet, in the council's budget forms number 1 from 2014 to 2018, there was no mention of any monies for the communication and travel until the 6 amended the budget to take the money from the law department and give it to themselves. The $3,000 amounts to a 7% increase the 6 voted for. Yet at the same time, you gave police and fire 2% raise. A member who voted no for the $3,000 stated that the council members' salaries is sufficient to cover their expenses, and she was right. I want to thank those 3. You're not taking the money from the law department and putting it in your pockets.
Last but not least, Clerk Adrian Santos.
Adrian Santos, resident of the City of Chicago, 4206, Hidalgo Lane. I'm asking the council to look into our ambulance service. Unfortunately, right before Christmas Eve, I had to call 911 for my mother. We thought she was having a stroke. And lo and behold, it took over 20 minutes for the ambulance service to show up to my house. Thank God for the Chicago Fire Department and the firemen. Thank you that showed up. There was an EMT on the rig that was able to look at my mother. But when I looked outside to see who had showed up to my home, it was Superior. And the last I knew, Prompt was the people that would contract with the City of Chicago. So I'm assuming they're no longer contract with the city. And I'm asking that you look into that. And if there is a contract, how many ambulances do they have in the city at any given time? Because it was told to me that they took so long to show up because one of them was in Gary. Now, I know under the old contract, when I was on the council, Prompt always told us that they were going to have somebody here. Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, there was nothing wrong with my mother. We were able to get her to the hospital, but they sat with my mother in the ambulance for 15 minutes while I sat in my car. And I got out of my car and I walked up to the ambulance and I told her, "Why are you waiting? Why can't you guys take her so that I could meet up with her at the emergency room?" And she told me that they had to call the emergency room to admit her or something like that. And I couldn't understand why. I just didn't understand why it took so long and why wasn't there a rig in the City of Chicago. So I'm asking that you would look into that under the Public Safety Committee or however you choose, Mr. President.
Thank you. The chair now accept the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Clerk Santos, roll call to adjourn.
Maldonado. Francisci.
Yes.
Walker. Vasquez.
Yes.
Garcia.
C.
Orange.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yeah.
Medina.
Yes. Meeting's adjourned.